Hey, great algebra students. Our third video for this part of the book, and we're going to solve incomplete quadratic equations. Now, we know that incomplete means that there is no x to the second or x to the first power that's missing one of those. A complete one has both. Incomplete is missing one. So we have x to the second, no x's. So we know that this is incomplete. This is on page 8 in your book, in your new book. What the book is trying to do is just trying to be annoying a little bit. And if you look at this, you can see it right away that all they're asking us to do is combine our like terms. And then we're back to doing the normal stuff. And in book 8, in page 8, they introduced the plus or minus, which we did last video. So we have 2x to the second plus x to the second power equals 75. Well, we're going to add those two together. And what do we get? 3x squared equals 75. Easy enough. Just add them together. Combine like terms, then do the math. All right, we have a 3x squared. Well, 3 times a number that we don't know, an unknown number. All we have to do is divide by 3. X squared equals 25. You probably got this. You can see this in your head probably, but we are going to make sure that we continue on. What we've been learning is cancel out the squared by square rooting both sides. So we have x equals plus or minus 5. Don't forget, plus or minus 5. If we want to go back, we can take the negatives and put them in there. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Negative 5 times the negative 5 is positive 25. 2 times 25 is 50. Plus 25 equals 75. Let's look at another one. And we're going to say, what do we have? We have x squared on this side, x squared on this side. So when we're looking at moving our variable around, what do we look at first? The first thing we look at is where the most, and I'm just going to abbreviate, x's are. Okay, where are the most x's? Most x's are over here. So that's okay. If we have the negative 64, we'll take care of that later. So we're going to subtract x squared over here and bring it over here to this side. So now we have 2 take away 1 is x squared minus 64 equals 0. That's all right, not a problem. We're working through it. So now we got to get the x, isolate the x, just like we're isolating the variable. Get it by itself. We have to get rid of this guy. I know you guys remember this from before. What we do on one side, we got to do on the other side. And then so we have x squared equals 64. How do we get rid of the square? Well, that's easy enough. All we have to do is square root both sides. And we're lucky that we have a perfect square in 64. 2, these guys cancel out. X equals the square root of 64 is 8. So we have our answer here. Are we done? 3, 2, 1. No, we have to do the plus or minus. So it's plus or minus 8. We can substitute negative 8 in here and we can come up with the same answer. Or we can put a positive 8 in here. We come up with the same answer. But this one can't be positive and this one can't be negative. We don't want to do that. Just make sure it's all the same. Why confuse ourselves? All right, so they're going to ask you this kind of question here. All right, and this is going back to the last book. We're going to look at trying to solve this. So we have to isolate the variable. We have to get rid of the 12. X squared equals 12. Take the square root of both of them. These guys cancel out. X equals, well, 12 is not a perfect square. So what do? We don't want to leave it that way, but we can simplify it. We did it in the last book. We can look at it and say, all right, well, I know that 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. And 4 is a perfect square. So what two numbers do we multiply to get 12? And one of them is a perfect square. So x equals the square root of 4 times square root of 3. X equals 2 square root of 3. So that would be our final answer. So be careful, they may try to trick us. If it's not a perfect square, and we know what our perfect squares are, aren't we? 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, right? 81, and 100. These are all our perfect squares. If that isn't the answer here, we know we have to look at the perfect squares, trying to find a perfect square that multiplies into that number. And this one we figured on 4. So I hope that's helpful to you. Give me an email if you don't understand it, and I'll help you through it. Maybe make another video just for you. All right, take care.